Hi everybody. Thank you for joining. This is G&G segment. Today we have a special guest joining, Ari. The reason I've invited Ari into the conversation is we're going to actually talk about my post. The other day I wrote a post that sparked a lot of different conversations, and I was a little bit taken back by some people's comments, but it comes with the territory, so I'm fine with that. It was a post about the challenges women face. We have to work 3 times hard. Then I took it to a next level where I'm a colored woman, proud of it, but I'm colored. And the challenges that we face as colored women compared to, our other female counterparts being white. There are its own unique challenges. So some of the comments were kind of disturbing. And this is why I invited not women. Instead, I invited Ari to join me and Gil. Let's open up the dialogue. Let's talk about this because it is important to talk about it. We can't dismiss that challenges don't exist, but challenges also exist for men. But there's also, I think, greater challenges for women in the workplace. For example, I'll share one story that happened with my sister when she was working. I won't name the company's names, but when she took on a senior level role, a junior female associate told my sister that, hey, you should dress up a little bit more, wear makeup, like light makeup, and that will really help you elevate your career to a next level. So she started doing it. Then she landed into Accenture. Again, it was unsaid, but there was an expectation of female consultants to look presentable, and that means an extra layer for women, right? For men, it can be wearing a tie, your hair, your grooming, and all that stuff, but women have an extra layer. Again, it's unsaid. Wear makeup, light makeup, look professional, get your nails done, make sure your nails are clean, polished. Again, not like you need to go get manicure, pedicure, but the expectation is there. So if you do all this, you will get promoted. And if you don't, someone's going to second guess, well, I don't know, but she doesn't look presentable all the time, and so on. But these are some challenges. There are plenty of challenges that females face every single day in corporate world, but it's not nice to dismiss when someone's creating awareness. And one of the reasons a lot of females don't talk about this is exactly what happened to me when I wrote this post. I've been called a victim, racist. I'm paranoid. It's all in my head. And this is the very reason why even females at work were not raised concerns, because they don't want someone to think, oh, you're just a complainer. You're too emotional. You just complain about everything. It's all in your head. This is really not happening. But things do happen at work. Things happen even on LinkedIn where females do get subject to their looks. Men do comment on our looks. I remember one time I did live, I had a couple men that were commenting on my look. It does happen, fine. It comes with the package when you're on a public platform, but that doesn't mean that we need to go through this. And I have 2 men here that are gonna share their perspective on this very topic, how they feel, and how they've actually, both of them stepped up to the plate yesterday and supported me when I was being attacked like other females did. So let's open the discussion and talk about the challenges that women face. Who wants to go first?
Gil, after you.
Sure. I'll start I'll use the micro example of LinkedIn to demonstrate a larger point. Whereas the example is that many women face inappropriate messages and inappropriate comments from men on a all too regular basis. And I know for me, I had no idea until I saw a woman post on the subject, until I saw a woman actually with the names blurred out, show on their feed what they were facing. And then the number of women who then responded with, I deal with the exact same thing. But the reality is, as a man, without a woman bringing that to my attention, I would have never known that. It would have never even occurred to me. To me, the culture of LinkedIn is a very professional network and all these things, so I don't see the other side to it. However, when I'm faced with this news that I either am uncomfortable with or is news to me, I have one of two options with it. I can either accept it and trust what the other person is saying and respect them as a human being, or try to fight this cognitive dissonance in my head that I don't believe it's happening and dismiss the other individual. And unfortunately, what happened to you happens far too often, not just on LinkedIn, but in work settings, where a woman will point out a way they're treated differently, a way they're treated worse, a way it's harder for them, and they'll be told, oh, come on, just be a team player. Or, that's not true, or any of these realities that do exist for women in the work world. I'd like to think it's better than it was 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But there is a distinct gender gap still in existence in pay. And I've actually seen multiple articles over the last few weeks expressing concerns that this actually will grow as a result of COVID, not shrink. And so if we're now going back on some of the progress we've made on society over the last number of years, that is a very striking concern. And this is also points out why more than ever, we need women like you pointing out the problems. We need to elevate these concerns so that it's not an elephant in the room, but a conversation we have. We all have biases. They exist in our brains. We're human. But until we recognize that, until we acknowledge that, until we respect what the other person is saying, we're never going to improve, and we're just going to regress. So that's why I'm so happy when I see women like you post those things. Not that I'm happy that it happened, because I'm mortified that it happened, but I'm happy that at least there is a voice that respects themselves enough to be able to share that and wants to share that. That's really important.
You know what's so interesting? You said that I was reading one of the articles yesterday because somebody from my network posted this, because I was thinking that COVID-19 is not going to have an impact on gender pay, right? So when I read the article, a lot of things made sense. Again, it made sense. To me, I didn't think, because I'm single, I don't have kids, right? But the article talks about how many females actually have to take time off right now to take care of their kids, right? Because schools are closed, daycares are closed, you can't get a babysitter. How are you supposed to juggle all this stuff, right? So interesting, it said it is actually going to increase the gap. So now where maybe it was going to take, 40 years to close the gap, or 60 years, I think it was going to take 70 years. Actually, sorry, it's going to take 70 years to get the gap closed. Like, we've been hitting it. I saw the graph. We were getting closer and closer and closer. But that actually, what I realized was, it doesn't cover color women. Color women gap is even bigger compared to just if you're generalizing just women. But if you take the segment and break it down to color women, you'll see even a bigger gap. But interesting to find out that I actually was very shocked to learn this yesterday, because in my head I was thinking totally opposite. I didn't think it was going to impact the gender pay until I read, and then all the reasons were given. And I had this other conversation with somebody who was saying their bosses are expecting them to have the same productivity level, but she can't because she has a toddler at home. She's like, how do I have this conversation with my boss, right? So both of you guys are married, right? So let's talk about this, because I want everyone listening to know that you're married, you guys have partners. Both of you guys have kids as well, right? So let's open the dialogue a little bit to what's happening in your household. Who's taking care of it right now?
So for right now, it's in my household split between my wife and I. I have a 4-year-old son who has autism. He's on the spectrum. And a 1.5-year-old son who is very rambunctious, and my nickname for him is Godzilla, because he just likes to take everything and just throw it on the ground and run around and break stuff.
I used to call him, we nicknamed him Monster, because he destroyed everything.
And it's interesting, because whenever I speak with somebody and I say that, I take care of the kids as well. This happened before COVID, when I went to pick my son up from daycare, and the daycare teacher was saying, when your wife makes the lunches, tell her X, Y, and Z. I'm like, my wife doesn't make the lunches. I make the lunches. And
So
she's
you're
like,
bad
okay,
at
okay.
it. That's basically what you learned. You were bad at making
tell
lunch.
I'm actually quite good at making the lunches, but it was communication what the daycare didn't communicate to us. But she kept on insisting, like, oh, okay, but tell your wife because she'll take care of it. I'm like, I take care of this, and it's this idea that no, men don't take care of kids at all. It's only the women, and it's this idea that it all falls on the women. My wife is a Toronto District School Board teacher, and some of the other teachers don't have children, and they are emailing and messaging on a group chat almost 24/7 at all hours of the day and expecting people to respond. And some principals are very supportive and they say, you know what, we understand there are kids at home, we work with children, we understand the productivity isn't going to be the same as when you were in the classroom. And other principals, they just don't care. They just don't recognize that is a thing, and they expect the same type of productivity. Looking at it in the sales world, I was shocked to find out that the vast majority of sales leaders aren't adjusting their sales quotas because of COVID. And that's just boggling to me that people are expecting the same type of productivity knowing that people have kids at home.
Yeah. And what's your take on the challenges women face? I totally jumped into the kids part and totally forgot that we were actually first talking about the challenges women face.
No,
So,
no, not a problem.
so what's your
Gil, I love that too. I love that you brought up the social dissonance that people are facing, that if we don't know that it's there, then it doesn't exist. And there's such a willful blindness to struggles that women face day after day. And myself, like you, Gil, I didn't know that women were experiencing this until I saw somebody post about it. And when I read the post and I read the direct message, I said to myself, are they crazy? Why would any person in their right mind do this and reach out to a woman and compliment her in a professional setting? And this topic brings up another example that I thought of before. And when a man is walking in the middle of the night or when it's dark out, they don't usually look over their shoulder and try to see, who's following them. It's not really built into our DNA. It's not something that we actively think about. But Gurpreet, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're walking alone at night, it's second nature to just glance over your shoulder every now and then to
I
see
do.
if someone's following you.
I do. I have two dogs. And I take them for a walk even before going to sleep. Just, I do my part, like let them go do their business so they can sleep through the night and not wake me up in the middle of the night. And I do. I won't wear headphones. I won't listen to music just because I want to be alert. And at night, yeah, if I see a far distant shadow coming, I'm like ready. But I was watching this video. I don't know who created it. It was a really great video that talks about this. Like it was actually a man talking about it. How women have to take, even like as you bring it up, like when we're walking down the street at night, or for example, also taking it to the next level, what we wear. So if you got sexually assaulted, the first thing everyone would say, well, maybe she asked for it, maybe the way she dressed, and unfortunately, we never look at and say, well, the person who did it is wrong, they should have never done it, regardless of what someone's wearing, right? So if I dress up a little bit, then it means, oh my god, I'm seeking for attention. But if I'm not dressed up, then it's, what's wrong with you? Why do you look depressed? I'm pretty sure it happens to men. I'm no way saying that stuff like stuff doesn't happen to men. I'm not a man, right? So I don't know what challenges you guys may face. But yeah, we do have an extra challenge that we have to face. Even growing up, my mom always educated me and my sister that it's not that we want to discriminate against you and your brothers, but yeah, you're gonna have your own challenges that they're never gonna know, they never have to experience, and they never need to be alert. But you, as a female, as a girl, as you're growing up, you're gonna have your own challenges. And my mom did her part to make us understand the difference between like men and women and their challenges. So I think maybe I grew up like that. So I was aware of the challenges that I can face that are not going to be the same challenges my brothers are going to face.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
interesting we
My
talk
mom
about
is very, very old school, and this conversation comes up, every now and then, on sexual promiscuity, and she says, if I had a daughter, I would make sure she didn't sleep around, and I always say to her, why is that specific to a daughter? You mean that if, when one of your sons was growing up, it would be okay if he slept around? But for a woman, it's not okay if she sleeps around?
Yeah.
Because there's the difference in what society expects of each of the genders, right? So, like Gurpreet
Yeah.
said, if you wear too much makeup, then you're looked upon this way. If you don't wear makeup, then you're looked upon a different way. Sure, men may be told to smile, but not at the same level that women have to deal with it, right? They're being told,
No.
"Oh, you'd look so much better if you just smiled," right? These are things that we may occasionally deal with, but not in the same way that women deal with. But it's important that we be aware of that. One of the things that I find interesting for me is that, look, I grew up in a family that it was me and a brother, and I have 2 sons. So whereas I know I can't impact, women and as daughters, but I need to teach my sons how to respect to all people. That's where it comes down to, is not to treat them differently because they are a boy or a girl or any different color. And what I found really interesting is there's an old joke or an old riddle, which was that a doctor and their son get into an accident, and they both are hurt, and then, or sorry, man and his son got into an accident, and they ask the doctor, and the doctor says, I can't work on this person, it's my son. And so 50 years ago, that was a riddle because people would have to think, oh, it was a woman that was the doctor. It was something that's completely outdated, whereas I intentionally told that joke to my son to hear, and he's like, what, it's a woman, of course. It didn't even trigger for him the same bias that somebody might have had 50, 60 years ago to not think about the fact that the doctor was a woman. And I did a terrible retelling of that riddle.
I was confused when you were telling that.
It's all good. It's all good. But the point, all that matters is that the punchline.
I can't.
All that really matters is the fact that the punchline is about the fact that the bias within the person listening would not equate a doctor with a woman. And that's the reality that I remember seeing. It actually was on a board at the HRPA in January when I was there. There was that exact joke, and that exact topic of conversation was being discussed because there's a different bias. So my responsibility is to teach my son that doctor could be a woman, they could be any color, they could be anybody, and that's what we respect them for. So it's just in you are in the same boat with 2 sons that's where our responsibility lies, where we don't have a daughter to say, okay, take care of yourself, but where the problem really lies is actually with the sons. That's where it is. It's not the issue isn't what the woman wore, it's with what the decision that the man made. And that's really where Ari and I think, have a tremendous opportunity in shaping the next generation in how they see gender differences, how they treat women and men, hopefully more the same than differently.
So last year, there was this article written on the training that women were going through for leadership with EY. Mm-hmm. And somebody actually wrote how bad this training was on females. They were told what not to do. Don't speak in the meetings, always agree, smile, because it was really bad. Like, I don't remember.
What year was this?
It's an article that I read last year that it came out.
It just sounds like that belongs in back in the 1900s at best, right?
This is a very
so it was an article mansplaining.
Yeah, The training was exactly like that, because if you voiced your opinion and you disagree with the men in the room, they're gonna see you as somebody that's angry, or somebody, like, it was a whole list of things, right? And I was reading this, I was so shocked that a company, such a big company, so it was like a little bit of a scandal, like it was all over the news, and I don't know how I came across this article. And I've been blessed, I have to admit. I have, in the corporate world, I've never experienced any type of discrimination towards me as a female. And I've worked in manufacturing with all men, and I was the only female manager on the seat on the table. But I have to give credit to the men I have worked with. They shaped me probably who I am in the corporate world, because of I had such great partners that were men. When I spoke, people listened. I was never, and on top of that, at that time I was the youngest person too. Yeah, there was a joke around how old are you? Everybody wanted to guess my age, because I do look young. Even now, I look young. Good genes, good genes. But I didn't have to go through the challenges that many females have to go through to even get opinion in there without someone thinking something else. Or you are angry, or you're saying this, oh, you're emotional. Females are always emotional, so you're thinking from the emotions. Or another scenario is, again, I don't have to deal. I don't have kids, so I don't have to deal with this. But females who have kids, or females when they get married, the promotion. If it's a demanding role, senior levels may not look at a female who has kids. Now they're being biased, right? They don't mean to, but maybe the role is demanding. They think that you may not be able to juggle, given you have kids and you have to have household situation. So I know where, like, a lot of challenges for females who are with kids come in as well. So there's challenges that men don't have to face. But interesting, Ari, you said, you go to the daycare, you make your kids lunches, and you even communicated that back to the individual, but she kept insisting that you deliver the message to your wife.
Yep.
Why? You said I make the lunches, my wife doesn't. No, tell your wife. So again, like, right, stereotype happens to men too. So I don't. That's why I want you guys to come in and weigh on this situation, because it's nice to hear, like, we us females can talk about forever the challenges we go through, but it's nice to bring in a man that actually recognizes the challenges that do exist, and admit that, okay, we haven't seen it, but then we've seen it happen to X, somebody we know, or somebody professionally on the network on LinkedIn, right? Any of you guys ever got messages from women saying, "You're handsome, you look hot"? Like, have you or anybody in your men's circle ever experienced that?
I think I may have heard about one person it happening once. I think I vaguely recollect a couple of months ago somebody mentioning it.
Yeah.
But not the daily kind of thing that, not all women daily, but it happens daily on LinkedIn. Men don't have to deal with that. And I mean, yes, we do have to deal with certain stereotypes, but broadly they're at the detriment of the woman. So for one example, I often, always grinds my gears is when I'm taking care of my boys. If my wife, goes out for dinner with her friends or something, and somebody asks me if I'm babysitting. It's like, no, I'm not babysitting. They're my own children. It's not babysitting when it's your own children.
Yeah.
But the bias there is that she's the one expected to do all the taking care of. She's the one who everybody thinks will be, getting up with them every night and feeding them every bottle when they were babies and changing every diaper and all of those things. And that is a difficult thing because women grow up with that expectation. And they grow up with that, that belief that society puts on them, that this is what we expect of you, and anything different than that is not normal, not acceptable, which, the three of us know is nuts. But the reality is that's what society tells people, is that, okay, you're a girl now, and when you're older, you're going to be lucky to meet the man of your dreams, and you're going to get married, and you're going to have children, and all of these things. That's not right for everybody. That's not everybody's reality. And so it's Sure, there are biases and ideas about men, but usually the advantage is to the man. The privilege is often with the man.
Yeah,
Yep,
I would
and Gil
say
can agree over here, especially in the Jewish tradition. For women, it's marry a lawyer or a doctor and give your mother grandkids.
that's the same in Indian culture. I think it's in a lot of cultures. Growing up, women, like, even how we raise our daughters. My brothers didn't had to learn how to cook or clean. Me and my sister did, and I'm raised here. I'm born and raised in Canada. Parents can't change who they are, and I've learned to accept that. But as you get older, I still, like, me and my sister both will point out things to our parents. My dad was pretty good. I wouldn't say that. My mom was the person that stayed at home with us for 24/7, right? So she's always with you. But now, taking it back into the culture and work settings, now this is where culture and inclusive becomes tricky, because if you're not aware of the things that are happening, then your culture is not inclusive to women, right? Like, how many females sit on boards, or how many females are part of the executive team? How many women feel comfortable being in a meeting and maybe they're the only female in the meeting? Maybe they feel intimidated. So the inclusive in the culture too gets, we got to think deeper into company cultures. So, Gil, you're an employee experience expert. What's your take on this?
So for me, inclusivity is key, because one of the problems that organizations had for years is they went all in on diversity, or at least thought they did, and made no interest in actually including those people in the decisions, in the social aspects, or anything like that. The reality is, because there are a lot of cultures that are dominated at the top by men, they need to think intentionally about how to include women and how they are excluding women. It's not just going to happen naturally. It requires the intent of actually looking and saying, what is happening right now? Is this inclusive of women? Is it not? Is this inclusive of all the different cultures from our organization? Are we having something that excludes people? When we make decisions, is there a diversity of voices that goes into that? The instinct isn't around that normally, especially that the bias is that, if it's an old boys club, that's who they're leaning on for their answers. And they can't do that. As we've seen, you're not making the best decisions. You're limiting your data by not giving, also to rewind back to what we were talking about around LinkedIn and getting shouted down. If you don't give the psychological safety to share these things and then care about them and do something about them, you will never change your culture, because people need to have that safety. If a woman complains about gender bias and your first response is, it didn't happen that way, or you're a complainer, or be a team player, or anything like that, she's not going to say it again.
Yeah.
It's just going to get worse, and she's either going to be completely demotivated and stay, or be completely motivated to leave. One of those two things, neither are good for your business.
Yeah.
So it's a business decision to want to give women this psychological safety, but it's also a human decision that they deserve that voice that has been squashed for so long.
Ari, what's your take? Given you in sales, I think sales are heavily driven by men, no? I can be wrong.
No, you're right. Sales is primarily, it depends on the type of sales that you have. So pharmaceutical sales are primarily driven by women.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, Ari has to go. Bye, Ari.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, Gil has to go.
Sorry,
I'm still
Gil.
good.
Oh, my bad. Gil has to go. Sorry.
What,
Yeah,
you
go
think all us Jewish people look the same? Come on.
No, I
Stop
actually didn't
discriminating
I
against
didn't
me.
even know you were Jewish. I'm not good with this stuff. I never do anything out on so many ethnic background unless you tell me. I'm so horrible. My dad used to say this to me because my dad was really good in identifying different ethnic groups. I wasn't, and he used to always look at me like, "You're in HR. How do you not know this?" I'm like, because I see everybody saying, "I don't care unless you tell me. I'm gonna assume nothing." Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. So sales.
So if we take a look at the SaaS market, it's a lot better now. I see a lot more inclusion and a lot more diversity when it comes to women and men. And a lot of teams are usually in and around the 50-50. But I have to say that there is a very direct differentiator between conversations with men when there's a woman in the room and when there's a woman not in the room. Sales traditionally has a history of having a drinking culture, having potty mouths, and sometimes people will be like, "Oh, we can't say that in front of women," and sometimes they'll just go off their rocker and be misogynistic. And I've noticed that it really depends on the leader to set the expectations of what is right and what isn't right. Because, like you said, a lot of times people aren't going to speak up and give their thoughts and say, this makes me uncomfortable, because they often just want to be one of the guys in the group setting. But it's up to everyone to make sure that everyone feels comfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point. In sales, just drinking. I remember one time I was recruiting for sales. I was helping somebody out that I know in my network, and the one thing he mentioned was that the salesperson has to go out for drinks. So you have to be a drinker. Like you can't go
Yeah.
and go to a meeting outside of the norm and just sit there and say, I'm gonna have water. So the HR mind in me is like, okay, like in the end of the day, you still got to deliver what that person's client wants. But in my mind was, well, now you just lost so much pool of good candidates because you want somebody that drinks. I'm supposed to ask a candidate, are you okay with drinking? What is
I
someone
don't think that's legally even allowed.
you can, right? So obviously you have to position in a different way, just paint a clear picture. But to me, that was whole discrimination. And then in sales, okay, let's say you have to go meet and talk. Like maybe women might not get considered for a sales role if she's married with kids. You're not allowed to ask these questions. But again, there's ways nowadays to find these things out on because we have social media.
Social media.
Yeah, you can find out someone's married, kids, and all that stuff due to social media now. Like, how do you measure that? So, is it fair? Have you seen, as a salesperson, have you seen some? You may not have seen it, but have you seen where females haven't gone positions just because they're females in sales?
Uh, in my experience, no, I haven't seen this, but I have been the I've been discriminated against. I know for a fact, based on a disability. I went on a job interview. It was a group interview about 6-7 months ago, and at the time I had a cane, and because I just got out of surgery, and I noticed that in the group interview setting, people were mingling and talking. I obviously wasn't drinking any alcohol because I was taking medication, and a lot less people came to talk to me. A lot more people tried to get away from me quickly. They didn't want to have conversations with me, and it was very obvious the vibe that I was getting. And I had 3 phone interviews up to that point, which went fantastic, and got a generic "we're not interested" after that.
That's so unfortunate. Yeah, stuff
Yeah.
happens. Like people need to understand that. Uh, I became very vocal. I think last year. Um, on I'm going to talk about the issues that exist when I'm going to not hide away from it. And I think I got that strength after my dad died. That's where the shift happened, where I do openly now talk about the reality is that stuff happens, and we shouldn't be hiding away from it. We should be allowed to openly talk about it, even if it's on a platform like LinkedIn, where we especially if you have the voice, why not address the issues
Yep.
that exist? But then I think people need to understand is someone's writing a viewpoint of an experience. Some majority of it exists, but don't discredit that person just because you didn't experience it or you didn't see other people experiencing it, or then tell someone that's all in your head. Like if you openly shared your story, I think people need to sit there and think for a second. Yeah, this can happen. Like
Yeah.
I'm nature and I can say, yeah, it can happen. Like even though, I'm not saying I'm gonna do it, but then again, you can't control the human bias. We are human. One thing I think a lot of people need to understand is that for a second, forget corporate world, but we in the end of the day, we're human. The corporate world is made out of human beings, and humans are very interesting people. Naturally, we have biases. We don't mean to, but either it stems from how, like, culturally, it stems from household. Regardless, naturally, we have. There's no one person can tell me that they've never had a biased opinion, ever,
Of course.
because that will not be humanly possible. We all have problems. I mean, opinions, and which makes us human. But I think the important is that we don't bring it to work. I think we need to differentiate how you are in your personal life. I'm not saying it's okay in your personal life, but definitely, you shouldn't bring it into work. And no one should ever have to feel that they have to jump through hoops to get attention or be recognized. And I think I'm glad things are changing. Like I've heard stories from older females, the struggles they went through to get create. There were women who opened the path for women like me and future generations to have not to struggle. Like when I hear their stories, I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, I didn't have to go through this. But so many females had to go through so much when they started working that me and future generation are not going to have to go through. But somebody took that challenge and turned it around so that if they didn't voice opinions, if they didn't speak up, how we have International Women's Day, there's a whole history behind that. If someone didn't speak up, we as women today and future generation of females will not be enjoying what we have. We're enjoying this because someone spoke up
Yeah.
to what's happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if these people didn't speak up, we wouldn't be where we are today. And there's certain cultures around the world that women's rights is still not taken seriously, that they don't have the rights to vote. They don't have the rights to get their own job, their own income. And for me personally, it's one of the things that makes me so proud to be Canadian, that it doesn't matter what type of person you are, where you come from, you can succeed. You're given a chance.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree on that, where everybody blessed, if like we're blessed to be living in Canada. I definitely, say this all the time. I'm blessed because I would never know the challenges somebody from India has to go through. Yeah, I think times have changed, but again, the challenges someone has to go through in other countries are probably not the same that females are going through in North America or Canada, even alone. But yeah, somebody spoke up. We are fortunate enough to live in a country that is diversified. We are fortunate to live in a country that speaks up. We have human rights. We have all these movements happening all the time to better ourselves, better our country. So we all have equal opportunities. And I agree that all of us have opportunities to succeed in here. I think that's probably why one of the reasons I was taken back on a couple of people's comments on my post that I'm playing the victim. And I was like, well, I've never played the victim. And if I played the victim, I wouldn't be where I am today, because I never looked at myself as a victim. I always looked for opportunities and solutions. And I never once ever wanted to look at myself and be like, I'm limited to opportunities because of the color of my skin or my ethnic background. I've never had that thinking. I've never looked at myself as, well, I'm limited to opportunities. Maybe my parents did a great job. My dad's been was a great example, because he came to this country with $5, 72, experienced so much racism, I didn't. I nearly didn't experience what my dad and his generation who immigrated to Canada had to go through. But my parents, my dad especially, showed us that we're not limited just because our ethnic backgrounds or the color of our skin or our names. My dad never changed his name. I've never changed my name, even though I've been told multiple times that maybe if I change my name, I'll get better opportunities. I still didn't change my name because I want someone to give me opportunities, my name, not
For
because
sure.
I change my name so that it makes someone feel comfortable to pronounce it. But yeah, I'm going to end on that note that, as you said, we live in Canada and we have limited opportunities and we should go for it and never let something hold us back, be it men, be it women. We have opportunities. But as I said in my post, females do tend to need to work a little bit harder than men do for various different reasons and obstacles in our way. But that doesn't mean that there aren't females out there that are shining right now. And so I know so many great women out there that besides the odds and obstacles and challenges, they're striving in their profession, they're striving in their field, and they're doing amazing things. And so let's support one another and empower other females to continue their journey. And once again, thank you, Ari, to coming on, to sharing your viewpoints on the
It
challenges
was
that
my
we're.
pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting all females by just joining in this conversation. And thank you for everybody. I know we went over like almost 15 minutes, but thank you for listening in, tuning in. This is GNG segment, even though Gail had to leave. If you want us to cover any particular topics, please send both me or Gail or separately, whatever you're comfortable with. Let us know what topics you want us to cover in our GNG segment, and we will cover them. So thank you so much for tuning in. And then tomorrow we'll be at the same time, 12:30. So until then, keep safe, keep pushing. Don't ever think that something can limit you. Keep looking for a solution on how to do it and you'll figure it out. And on that note, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.